Let's take a look and see what might be used on an annotated assembly drawing and with a bill of materials, and how it might look when we're doing this using Inventor. And remember, this is for design review only, so there should be a note on it. It says do not fabricate, design review only. And I've chosen to use a revision P. Most places I worked had a P- number or something to indicate that it was prototype only and didn't belong in the normal revision control. So you can add those two things on there. Those are important, and there'll be a video on how to do it. The next thing you'll note is that there are item numbers pointing at each type of component. Here's a control box, here's the oven housing, here's a foot, here's a cover or door. And so there are 4 things, and those are all the things I'm going to manufacture. So housing, control box, foot, sliding door. And then I could have put the other components in here, some screws and these, but I chose on this one to use it as a note. Now you have components drawn for those, so you can put them in. And I decided to just say heating element not shown for clarity, and then say what it is. So these are 2 commonly used ways of indicating what is getting assembled and all the parts of your design. Okay. In this one, I'm going to ask that you also have, your little heating pad here. You don't necessarily need the screws. And then I've got some annotations that tell somebody what's going on. The feet will raise the base about a 1/2 inch. They attach with 1/4 20 socket head cap screws and a nut on the inside of the oven. So I have to be thinking, how am I going to attach it? As another example, I'm going to screw the control box to the oven through the open front cover. And then to show them where that front cover is. The front cover is right here. So I don't have that really highly designed, but it lets the designer know. And that there's an access hole in the oven that's not shown in this view. Okay, and that's for the wires to go from the heating pad into the control box. And then down here, the power cord will come out the bottom with a 6-foot. So I'm adding just a little bit more detail than I had before. I've chosen just to have a piece of polycarbonate that'll just slide down. Doesn't even really need to seal all that well. It's okay for air to get in and out. And so this is a sliding oven door that just goes into that slot. It's a piece of polycarbonate. How do I know it's polycarbonate? I put it over here. I said the door, which is a sliding clear door, is polycarbonate clear. And it says purchase, but I'm going to change that because that's a manufactured item. And there will be some small amount of work that I'm going to have to do on that. Probably have to make some little chamfers and maybe cut a little handle in it or something like that. I'm also saying that I'm going to use shim washers. Those are very, very thin, round washers. They could be made out of anything. 0.005 thick to adjust, right? If you have 3 feet, they'll always seek level, and that 4th one is very hard to make level. So I'm saying you just put some shim adjusters behind it and then tighten the bolt. I'm also saying that this housing is steel sheet and that I'm going to show a flat plate layout, and it's going to be 0.06 thick. And then 2 other pieces are 3D printed. So now I'm really talking a little bit about the materials and how I'm going to make those. I still don't really need detailed parts yet. My detailer will do that later on. I have to give enough information that my detailer knows what to do. I'm also telling them that the I'm just going to lay the heating element there, and I'm not going to fix it in place. I'm just going to put it there and then run the wires up. So the designer knows that they don't really need holes or glue or a clamp or anything like that. You could have those things, but I've chosen to just use it as a note. So that's what we mean by an annotated drawing. There's one other set. Somebody'd kind of like to know how big this is, particularly if they have to lift this door out. How much room do they have to have up above it? If this is sitting on a shelf, how high does the next shelf need to be? And so I put the overall dimensions, and you put them in parentheses to suggest that they're not perfect and they're identified elsewhere. They're just a reference for you. And then I made a top view. So I've got a front view, a top view, and an isometric view. I can pretty much see everything. I see that this is pretty well lined up over here on the back. I haven't given much detail to this. I haven't given much detail to anything, but it's one step more than we did in your concept visualization. Now we're adding enough detail that we think a detailer or a designer could go to town and make these individual parts. Maybe even starting from your component parts. Could be that they could start from here, make their own copy of it, and start adding things like handles and chamfered corners so that they're not sharp, and maybe even a cool logo that's laser etched into it or something like that. And in the housing, they might start all the way over because they said it was a flat plate layout, and this isn't one. So I'd have a hard time making this into a flat plate layout. I might have to start all over on this one. But that's okay. I can figure that out as I go. And then I know that there's two other pieces that are 3D printed, and we'll be talking about what you need for a 3D printed part. Okay, so there we go. That's what we're talking about. Now, I haven't added anything to the title block. This should actually say what it is and might even have the company here. I'll go over that in the detailed video of the how-to do all this. All right, there you go. That's sort of what belongs on an annotated assembly drawing with bills of materials.